are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, episode 257 of the College Loop Podcast. I'm Dylan Larck, Aboiting on Twitter, here to talk to you today about the latest in Auburn athletics news, as I've calmed down a little bit about how the Auburn-Oklahoma game went. I went on my rant. I had a good time while doing it. Talking about the Auburn-Oklahoma game, I was able to sit down and listen to the Hugh Freeze press conference, and I agree with a lot of what he said. I think it was a good recruiting pitch for the class 2025. I think that a key thing that I heard Freeze talk about that I think is going to be a big talking point through the remainder of this year is how close is Auburn actually? So looking at how Auburn has played over the past 5 games, Auburn has a 2-3 record. Georgia is up next, and I don't think anybody can really believe that Auburn is going to be able to win that game. Auburn currently is a 24-point underdog playing against a team that just lost on the road. I think Georgia's going to be playing very angry against Auburn this weekend. But kind of looking at what we've seen so far, if not for the turnovers, where would Auburn be? Would Auburn be 5-0 if they were winning the turnover battles? If they didn't have games with 5+ turnovers? I mean, 2 of those at the very minimum. And then look at the Oklahoma game. You gave up a pick 6 that ended up being, the catalyst as to how Auburn lost to Oklahoma. And Freeze talked about that extensively in his press conference. I mean, if you looked at it, Auburn 16th in the SEC out of 16 teams in turnover margin. -11 is where Auburn stands right now. If you get rid of those turnovers, is Auburn 5-0? I think you are. Auburn's lost by, going down the list, 7, 10, and 6 points. If Auburn just doesn't have, I've said this for the Arkansas game. If Auburn only has like 2 interceptions out of the 4, Auburn wins that game. If you get rid of the fumble recovery too, the fumble into the end zone, Auburn wins that football game. And I think that you take the points that were taken off the board and on Auburn's side of the field, I mean, you have at least 2 touchdowns added back to your score on that, and you beat Arkansas. And then against Oklahoma, you just don't throw a pick 6 there. You make better reads on the play, and you beat Oklahoma. And you beat a ranked team. You go into the Georgia game 5-0. You go into this game only needing 1 extra win to get bowl eligibility. Auburn now looks down the gauntlet of the schedule they have left, and you got to find 4 wins. You got to find 4 wins. I think that it'd be embarrassing to not have a bowl game this year. But after this week, you get a bye week. After that, you got to travel to Missouri. You got to travel to Lexington. You got to play against Vanderbilt, who isn't much of a cakewalk anymore. You got a bye week for ULM, who that's your given win left on the schedule. You got to come back to Jordan-Hare Stadium, play Texas A&M, who just beat a team that beat you in Arkansas. Then the last game of the season is, of course, against Alabama, who has already been voted on as the best team in the country by the AP voters. Looking down the rest of the season, I mean, Auburn has played well enough where some of those games are winnable. That Missouri game can be winnable. The Kentucky game can be winnable. I would say that the Vanderbilt and A&M games are very winnable. But you have to quit beating yourself down. You got to quit being your biggest enemy on the field. And I understand the emphasis on the future looks bright. I understand that. But at what point does a losing record affect that? Can you keep this class together with a 5-7 record? Can you keep if it's 4-8, can you keep this recruiting class together? Because I've heard great things about the class 2025. A lot of those guys are very proud of what they've seen on the field in the case of, hey, Auburn should be winning these games, but they're missing something. Something is not there on this roster right now. And honestly, I mean, we've been talking about the recruits all year, and you sit there and hope and pray, like, well, maybe they're thinking on. Hopefully, they're thinking on this side of the spectrum, not the other side, and they are. Jared Smith has talked about it. Alvin Henderson was talking about it. They watch this team. They go to the games for visits, and they're watch Auburn play, and they're like, they're a few pieces short. There's a couple things missing on this team that can turn it around. And that's something you want to hear from recruits. And that's something that's been going great, at least with the recruiting pitches given to these players is, hey, you're going to play. Whether it be your first year or your second year, you are going to be a part of this culture that isn't there right now. The winning culture at Auburn is not there right now. If it's going to be there, it's going to be there next year. And if next year starts off like this, I mean, I don't think the class 2026 is going to have that same mantra. I mean, at that point, you are 3 years in. You have your players. You have 3 generations worth of athletes on your team that you brought in. The juniors, the sophomores, and the freshmen. And then whatever portal guys you get who would be seniors at that point. But you're looking out with the class 25. Because their mindset is, hey, if we're there, if we're at Auburn, this doesn't happen. If we commit to Auburn, if we sign with Auburn and we make it official in December, I forgot when exactly signing day is, they moved it around. We early enroll, we get things started off right, and we hit the ground running. And next year, we're talking about Auburn being a playoff contender. SEC contender. Because that's the thing with Auburn going on right now is it just doesn't there are things that are going on the field that just aren't proving the concepts. And I think that's something that's very, very like in your face about it. Because this team isn't winning games that they're supposed to win. If they were, they'd be 5-0. There are 3 games on this schedule that Auburn has already lost where Auburn was favored. Now, Oklahoma went to this game favored by 2, but Auburn, and with everything on the table, Auburn should have been favored in this game. This was a game Auburn should have won, regardless of spread, and just watching the game itself. And Hugh Freeze was talking about it. And the class of 25, again, I can't overstate it enough. And that class is going to be so important because you're going to get a lot of big needs. You're going to get starters in the class 25. And I'm very glad that they're watching this Auburn team with hope for the future that, hey, once we get there, things are going to change. That's something that you're looking at with if you're Hugh Freeze and this Auburn coaching staff. Because you're watching Auburn play, and it just looks like they are. And I got some flack for what I said about Auburn wanting to lose. Excuse me. What I meant was this team doesn't know how to win. It's not that I said that they want to lose. This team doesn't know how to win. They don't know how to keep their foot on the gas pedal. They don't know how to take a lead and run with it. They don't have that yet. And going into next year, that's going to change. Because I'm not in the fire Hugh Freeze. I'm not going to be in the fire Hugh Freeze mindset this season. I don't care if it's 3-9. I don't care if it's 2-10. I don't think you fire Hugh Freeze after year 2. Now you go into year 3 and you see the same issues. Then that question starts to arise. then you're in a giant pickle again. But right now, I'm not in that camp. And I mean, just going through, I mean, I never really believed in the whole the discussion about Hugh Freeze throwing players under the bus, because I didn't feel like that's what that was. It felt like he was being open with what was happening on the field. Now, whether or not the play calling is good, that's completely on him. I don't think the play calling was all that great. There were definitely some plays not being made. But execution is a big part of what is killing Auburn right now. The turnovers, the RPO's not working. I mean, that's something that he talked about. And after that, after the Oklahoma game, he even was like, I don't think we should have given Peyton Thorne the opportunity to pass the ball in that situation. But the play calling was bad. And I think he mentioned that. He said that, he regrets that Jarquez didn't get carries inside the red zone that could have helped score points that would have given Auburn a bigger lead over Oklahoma. So I guess the positives about this season so far is the fact that Hugh Freeze is open about what's wrong with this team. But he's also very open about the hope of this team. The young guys playing. Cam Coleman, Malcolm Simmons, Perry Thompson, all those guys on offense are playing in their first years. They are getting major targets. They're getting opportunities on the field. You look on defense, DeMarcus Riddick had a coming out party versus Oklahoma. Caleb Harris had a great performance against Oklahoma. You have sophomores like Kyan Lee, Keldrick Falk, and Connor Liu are all getting the starts. That's hopeful for the future. Now, the class 25, you got to draw a line where the starters are and where the depth is. Like, I think Blake Autry is going to be a guy who you're going to see day one. I think Jordan Crawford's going to be one of those guys, too, that you're going to walk out in the field game one and you're going to hear their names right away. You got to find all those guys, and you can't have a losing culture next year. You can't have it. And looking forward to Georgia. I mean, we'll have a full breakdown of that game on the Thursday show. I'm not confident in that game whatsoever. I'm not even confident that's the game that I'm going to give Auburn the opportunity with covering that spread, because I don't think I can do it yet. I don't think I can do it. But ultimately, it's a game Auburn's not supposed to win. If they can find a way to stay in that game, that'd be a win in and of itself. But overall, I think Freeze hit a lot of major points in his press conference. I just need to start seeing something change on the field. You got to show more steps in year two that you're building a winning culture. And you can't do that by losing games that you're supposed to win. Again, so going forward, I don't have high hopes for the Georgia, Missouri, or Alabama games, but the remainder of the games on that schedule, you can get your 4 wins. You can. So work on that. I'm not a coach. Don't take my advice if you don't want to. I'm just saying things need to start working in the right direction. I don't think you can bench Peyton Thorne right now. I don't think you can. He played 3 great quarters of football. But looking ahead, I mean, things got to change in the right way to prove that, 2025, that's the year. Auburn fans should have a lot of hype going into that year, and rightfully so. If everything is as advertised, if everything is being preached to them, the 2025 class is going to come in and everything's going to shift in the right direction. These past 2 classes are going to be aged up and be ready to go. You got to have that proof of concept right away in 25, but show glimpses of it in 24. 6-6 is reachable, but 5-7, I think right now would be a massive improvement as to what's happening right now. Win games you're supposed to, but looking down the line, I mean, I hope there's 4 wins down the line. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Hugh Freeze press conference, and that's also kind of my thoughts on everything in general. I've calmed down. I know it went a little rant, but I've calmed down since the Oklahoma game. I was very mad about that game. Before we get into our break, I'm going to do a little SEC power rankings, and then I'm going to highlight the other Auburn athletics teams around Auburn University that have been performing extremely well across all facets. SEC power rankings number one. There's a shift of power in the SEC. Alabama beat Georgia. Alabama's now number one on my list. Number two is Texas. 3 is Georgia, moving down to a couple spots. Number 4, I have Missouri. 5, I have Tennessee. 6, I have LSU. 7, I have Kentucky. Massive jump up for them. 8, I have Ole Miss. 9, I have A&M. 10, I have Oklahoma. 11, South Carolina. 12, I have the Auburn Tigers. 13, I have Arkansas. 14, Vanderbilt. 15, Florida. And, of course, 16 is Mississippi State. Yeah, Auburn moved down on my list until you can prove that you know how to win or know how to keep the lead or just prove that you can be competent whenever for all 4 quarters of the game. Auburn's going to keep moving down that list. Still have them above Arkansas. I still think they're a better team than Arkansas. That's why it baffles me that they lost that game. But, yeah, so we're going to go to a quick little break. On the other side of this break, Auburn basketball picked up a recruit, and Coach Jay breaking a record before her 4th year on the Plains. So we'll be right back. Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes, looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you? Go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt as well as your college loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program. Of course, and as I start coughing, I didn't cough the entire time that ad was on, but as it ends, I have a coughing fit. So, yeah. College loop hat, most comfortable hat you're ever going to wear your entire life. College loop shirt, Feelin' Loopy t-shirt, most comfortable shirt you're going to wear in your entire life. Halloween's right around the corner. And, of course, what better thing to go as than a loop? So, moving on to the remainder of the show, Auburn men's basketball picking up a 4-star commit in 2025 shooting guard Simon Walker out of Huntsville, Alabama. A 4-star, number 25 shooting guard, number 2 player in the state of Alabama. A guy with a lot of range from the 3. Can shoot it deep, can shoot it from 30, 40, 50 feet, wherever he desires, which is a great pickup for Auburn. Great first commit for the class 2025. Looking down the line, I mean, Auburn basketball is going to have to start picking up some recruits and picking them up fast. Auburn's going to have 10 openings for next year's team at the minimum. Of course, Tahad Pettiford and Shakai Howard, of course, the 2 young bucks on the team right now, as true freshmen, are pretty much the only 2 that are going to be able to come back in the next year. So she might have 12 openings. Bruce Pearl's already talking about how he's going to have to fill those spots up. And, you're talking to recruits, you're talking to guys who might enter the portal. Auburn's a great landing spot for a lot of players. You're really investing on this team this year and how they can possibly and how good they can be in this season. I have a lot of high hopes for this Auburn team. I think it's going to end up being a boomer bust year for Bruce Pearl. I don't think he's going to nothing like is going to get him fired or anything, but when you have a team that is solely built around seniors, you're going all in for a championship. And I think that's the ceiling for this team is the national championship. The floor is still in the March Madness tournament. This team is that good. And they have a quad of guards that can all play in every single way. The forwards, you have about 4 of those that can all play. And then, of course, you have the best tandem of centers in the country. A lot of high hopes for this team. Simon Walker, great pickup for Class 25 because start picking up some steam very quickly because a lot of these Class 2025 guys, you get 5 commits to Auburn. Those might be your starting 5 for 2025. So keep that in mind as Class 2025 or as the 2025 season comes up next year. So another basketball team that's recruiting very well on the Plains is, of course, Coach Jay's, picking up top 100 recruit and a few other recruits down the line as well. But the big pickup item here for women's basketball at Auburn, another year where a record has been broken. For the 3rd straight year, Coach Jay has broken the program record for season tickets sold. Not her, like she wasn't buying all the tickets. It was the fans are. And I love the buy-in. Coach Jay is going to take this team to the tournament this year. This is an Auburn basketball team, a women's basketball team that's going to could be a heavy hitter in the SEC. Now, where they stand against like South Carolina is a whole other story. But they're a team that I think they're going to beat teams that Auburn has not beaten in a minute. They're going to do some things this year that are going to be very impressive. And I am super excited to watch this team. I'm going to be trying to go to some of the games this year, as well as Auburn men's basketball. Really looking forward to basketball season. October 31st is the exhibition game. Auburn women's basketball takes on LaGrange College, and then Auburn men's basketball take on FAU in their exhibition game. Other sports going off. Soccer, currently number 8 in the country, having themselves a great season as well. And lastly, volleyball, 2-0 in the SEC, 12-1 overall, ranked number 24. Highest attendance in program history to watch Auburn take down Alabama for the 8th straight time. Just want to highlight those because that's some of the sports going on Auburn right now that are performing extremely well. And, of course, baseball and softball, both bringing in great recruits. Looking forward to Diamond Sports. Fall ball is right around the corner. So, with that being said, that does it for this time of the College Loop Podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Leave your thoughts on Auburn versus Georgia. Leave your early predictions of that game. I'm not going to give mine. I'll give mine on the Thursday show. But, of course, always open to hearing y'all's takes. But, of course, don't forget to check out the audio version of the show as well on Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. And, of course, check us on social media as well on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. The works of the College Loop. And, of course, don't forget to check me out at your boy the Tank on Twitter. And, of course, at Dylan Larck on YouTube, on Instagram. Sorry. But, of course, with all that being said, thank you for watching this installment of the College Loop Podcast. And, as always, War Eagle.